Welcome back to another edition of Stuff You Don't Usually See. Rules are the same. We record every week for a group of local radio stations, and we send the audio over to them. And we figured you might want to know what that looks like. So this is kind of a behind-the-scenes look at that whole process. So my guest today is Esmeralda Casas, Neighborhood Services Coordinator for the City of College Station. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Well, thanks for doing this. And before we get started with the radio recording, I want to try something different because I always ask you questions. Why don't you ask me a question? You got any questions from me? Can I help you with anything? Anything you're curious about at all?
Anything I'm curious about?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that I'm curious about is just like I said before is how is this going to work in the new City Hall, which we're all excited about. This is a very nice setup you did here, but
Yeah.
what is your new office going to be looking like?
So good question, because that really is a behind the scenes question. So we do this in my office, which is not terribly large, and it's very cramped. So we've got 3 cameras. We've got mine, we've got yours, we've got one on the 2 of us, right? And we've got some lights set up, and it's very cramped in here. And Mark does his best to try to piece it all together. In the new City Hall, plans are to not do this in my office. We have a big, roomy studio that's being built. So we will have some kind of setup there, and we won't be all cramped. So that's what it'll look like when we move into the new City Hall.
Okay, that sounds like a much better deal.
Yeah, that's going to
So.
be way better.
Yes.
So any other questions before we get
I think
started?
that's it.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay, that was pretty easy.
Yeah.
First time I've tried that. Okay, here we go. Well, thank you and good morning. My guest this morning is Esmeralda Casas, our Neighborhood Services Coordinator for the City of College Station. Esmer, thanks for sitting down with me.
Of course, thank you for inviting me.
You bet. So your topic, you're here to talk about National Good Neighbor Day, which I have to admit, I've never heard of. So educate me and everyone listening about National Good Neighbor Day.
Sure. And so I think like most people who have not heard of it, they're wondering what this is. But it is just a very fun way, a very fun day to get connected with your neighbors. It started in the 1970s in Montana, and then it was actually proclaimed nationally by President Carter. And so we're trying to bring that into College Station just to bring some connectedness, especially now in these past year and a half when we were socially distancing and the world has been looking a lot different for us. It's just another way to get to know your neighbors and get integrated into your community.
You know, I was talking to Officer Tristan Lopez, I think about a week ago, about how as a society we have changed and technology has helped change us. And maybe, I mean, this is just my own guess, we don't know our neighbors quite like we used to. We don't have as much face-to-face time and you know, meeting out in the yards and so forth, that either we are immersed in technology or we're just, I don't know, we're watching our streaming services or what have you. So it sounds like something like this might be a good catalyst to getting back outside and getting to know the people who are around you.
Yes, and so I think we've tried to do a few activities for this year's Good Neighbor Day. Last year we provided a blog post for people and some fun ideas for how to get started with planning activities. Your department helped me with these great coloring sheets that can be printed at home and can get the conversation started with anyone who has kids in their home, kind of teaching them from very young how to be a good neighbor. And this year, we're actually going to have a book display at the Larry J. Ringer Library. And one of the librarians there, Michelle Bond, has been helping me curating that book list. And so anyone who finds themselves at the library wants to have kind of like a little field trip with any of their homeschoolers, or, you know, if their kid is home for some reason, they can go to the library and check out some books to get the conversation started. But we're kind of going to just put some ideas out there for families, neighbors, to get connected with their neighbors. And like you mentioned, it's just in this culture right now that we have, it's a lot easier to just post something online instead of having a one-to-one conversation with your neighbor about something.
Right.
And so that's what we want to get started.
Yeah, we go to places like nextdoor.com instead of just walking next door.
Yes.
Yeah, good point. So some of the tips that you have shared previously and that you are still sharing now. I mean, give us an idea of what some of those steps are, those easy things to do are, to just be a good neighbor.
Sure. So I would say one of the very easiest ways to get started with meeting your neighbor is whenever you do have someone next door or in your neighborhood, you'll see the moving vans, or you'll see, hey, I haven't seen this new person, a new car in the driveway, whether they're renters or they're new homeowners moving into their first home, or retirees, whatever they are. You can go and actually request a welcome back from us at Neighborhood Services, and that actually has a lot of city information, so that if your neighbors are prone to leaving their trash can out on the wrong day, or they just don't know the codes that we have here, they can refer back to that guide and those pamphlets in that welcome bag. But also you can put your own information in there. So if you're part of an HOA or a neighborhood association and you have deed restrictions, they may not know that. And so to avoid conflict, you can just provide them with that information. You can even give them your phone number. And then once you meet face to face, then you can say, okay, text me if you need something. Or it's as simple as saying, hey, I'm going to be out of town. Can you watch my house while I'm away? Or anything like that. And so just getting those connections started, that's a very simple way. Just request a welcome bag, say hi to your neighbor, introduce yourself.
So how do we request welcome bags and things like that?
Sure. So anyone can go on to cstx.gov/neighbor, and they can find a button there to request welcome bags. And again, that can be for someone else, or even if it's just for yourself. If you're moving into town and you just want to get accustomed to the way things are done here, you can request a welcome back for yourself and for your household members.
And your office is sort of a clearinghouse for a million different questions. So I assume, if you can't find an answer to your question or your issue on the website for some reason, dial you up or email your office, and you can probably help point somebody in the right direction to figure out how things work in conversation.
Sure. So I like to think about our department as the Homeowner Helpline. And so that anyone can call us at 979-764-6262. Or again, they can always contact us online at cstx.gov/neighbor, and they can find our email there, and they can send a request or something if they have a question about anything that's going on in the city. Sometimes there's projects in your neighborhood that you don't know about, or you just don't know how to set up your utilities. You just moved in. Maybe you're not calling the right department, but we'll get you there, or we can just point you into the right direction.
Right. Okay, so I was cheating a little bit earlier. I was looking online at nationalgoodneighborday.com, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I think I'm looking at that right. Have you memorized the Good Neighbor Pledge?
I have not,
No?
but there is a pledge, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Anyone can look that up and kind of figure out some ways how you can promise, I'll be a good neighbor in my community.
Okay, so I'm going to read this pledge, okay? This is the Good Neighbor Pledge. I pledge to be the good neighbor. With the goal of becoming a more connected and caring community, I will be a person who lives with kindness and concern for my neighbors. I'll take the first step by connecting with neighbors and introduce myself. I will practice the good neighbor mindset to make connections, invitations, stay aware, and be available to my neighbors. Good neighbors make great neighborhoods. And so you can put your name and your email address in there and virtually sign the pledge. How about that?
Yes, and I think that's the key takeaway. Good neighbors make great neighborhoods. So if you want to live in a good neighborhood, it starts with you.
So the official National Good Neighbor Day is September 28th.
Yes.
But really, every day should be National Good Neighbor Day.
Right. And we have that, we're still kind of in the beginning of the fall semester. So this is a great way for you or anyone, whether it's through Good Neighbor Day or National Night Out or Gig'em Week or anything like that, just to say, hey, I'm going to do something nice for my neighbors, introduce myself, have a block party, do something to get connected.
Yeah, lots of opportunities. Okay, so what did I not ask you about related to National Good Neighbor Day that you really want to make sure people know?
Well, I would just say make sure that you're on the lookout. We're going to have a blog coming out at blog.cstx.gov, and the coloring sheets will be available there. And again, stop by the Ringer Library next Tuesday, and you can pick out some nice preschool age level books that you can read to or with your child to get them started on being a good neighbor.
Perfect. Esmer, thank you so much for talking to me.
Of course.
And thank you guys for letting us talk about the city of College Station. And that is stuff you don't usually see. That work?
Okay.
Awesome.
Easy enough.